we will accomplish the greatest mission, making the world a better place. This is an exciting day. It's my honor to guide you this morning and to welcome you to the Genesis Summit, the first Genesis Mission Summit. Let's not wait any longer. Let's get started.
America has always reached for the future first. And now, the Genesis mission is set to go faster and farther than anything that came before.
We're in the midst of a computing revolution that is going to transform the practice of science and engineering in America.
We're on the path to doubling America's scientific productivity and impact within the decade.
This past year has been one of the most dramatic accelerations of prioritization of technology in the history of American government.
In a short time, Genesis has secured major investments from federal agencies, industry, and international partners, and launched the Genesis Mission Consortium, bringing together public and private partners to collaborate on discoveries. We've identified some of our nation's greatest scientific and technology challenges across energy, discovery science, and national security. The world's brightest minds across the national laboratories, industry, academia, and philanthropies are working together to solve these challenges.
The Genesis mission, to me, is an opportunity of a lifetime.
Our growing community of partners has access to the Genesis Mission Platform to leverage AI, high-performance computing, quantum systems, and extraordinary scientific data sets, and the capabilities of all 17 national laboratories, including new next-generation supercomputers. The future isn't waiting. It's already happening.
We have plenty of evidence that this AI-assisted methodology is working. We're seeing it in advanced manufacturing, in the simulation of the electric grid, and we are seeing it in microscopy.
Every new partner strengthens the platform. Every breakthrough expands what's possible. The Genesis mission is unlocking the next era of American scientific leadership.
Now, to get us started today, please join me in welcoming Michael Kratsios, the Director of the Office of Science and Technology Policy at the White House. Michael serves as President Trump's Chief Advisor for Science and Technology. I've known Michael for a number of years, and in this role in the Trump administration, he does what we would want for any leader from the White House to do. He provides extreme vision and excels us and pushes us to excel. And he also provides us the resources and the top cover, to be frank, to make sure we have what we need to succeed as agencies and the science and tech communities at large. So please join me in welcoming Director Michael Kratsios.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Genesis Mission Summit. It is truly, truly exciting to be here with all of you today and to know what this gathering represents for all of us. 250 years after our nation's first great adventure innovation, 87 years after the Manhattan Project, and 65 years after the Apollo program, we are once again mobilizing a grand vision and national effort for the achievement of our highest ambitions. When President Kennedy declared that Americans would set foot on the moon, he told the world that such a lofty goal would serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Now, at the dawn of artificial intelligence, with the Genesis mission, we are set not just one goal, but many. Now we choose not to just have one high achievement, but many grand challenges. America's greatest scientific achievements have been born of national mobilization paired with the construction of new institutions. The the next chapter in that tradition. And we work together to harness AI for scientific discovery at a scale no one else on the planet can match. That is what brings us here today. And that is the spirit that animates the Genesis mission. So thank you for being part of it. Many thanks especially to you, Secretary Wright and Undersecretary Gill, who will be speaking shortly, for everything that you have done to make this great adventure possible. When President Trump launched the Genesis mission in November of 2025 as America's premier AI for Science initiative, he tasked us with building a discovery engine that would double the productivity of American science and engineering within a decade. When we first heard this goal from Secretary Wright and from Undersecretary Gill, it took us a second to figure out whether or not that was a good idea to talk about publicly. And I think it takes only someone like President Trump to make us think big and ultimately try to achieve something of such high caliber. Now today, we are celebrating the culmination of DOE's ongoing efforts with initiatives from a number of other agencies: NSF, Department of War, HHS, NASA, USDA, NIST, DHS, DOT, and many, many more to come. Together, we are proud to announce that we're bringing more than $5 billion in total commitments to fuel an AI for science takeoff across the entire government. The challenges that we have set and will continue to set will focus America's brightest minds on ambitious scientific and technological goals that will underwrite American prosperity and define the technical progress for a century to come. The Genesis mission sets out to produce a new operating model for American science, reinvigorating and modernizing the federal government's partnership with industry, academia, and philanthropy for both basic and use-oriented science. In short, it is not just a whole-of-government program, but a whole-of-nation effort. And we see that in the room today here with us. Just yesterday, I published a report to the President on reinvigorating the National Science and Technology Enterprise, titled Science, a New Golden Age. AI for Science and the Genesis mission in particular is the culmination of the reforms suggested in that report. As I wrote there, to realize the Genesis mission's potential requires us to address 4 key issues that would otherwise constrain AI-native science. The first is problem selection. The second is institutional capacity. The third is data infrastructure. And the fourth is integration of AI capabilities in the digital realm with experimental infrastructure here in the material world. The grand challenges and national effort making up the Genesis mission today address all of these problems and put us on a path to achieving our most ambitious goals for AI-assisted science. The challenges fall into 5 broad themes, which cover the whole of the American science and technology ecosystem and highlight the connection between fundamental and applied scientific work. I want to highlight a representative challenge from each of these buckets. Now, mind you, these are challenges that span across all the agencies I previously mentioned. To help Americans live longer, happier lives, I am particularly excited for the continuation of AI for science efforts applied to curing pediatric cancer. This is a top priority for President Trump, which continues initiatives he began in the first term with the National Pediatric Cancer Data Ecosystem. The Department of Health and Human Services will be coordinating with NIH and the FDA to support researchers leveraging AI to integrate genomic, imaging, pathology, and clinical data into multimodal models and learn across distributed sources. This will enable robust models even for ultra-rare cancers and guide precision care and adaptive trial design. To drive reliability and affordability of America's built environment, DOE and the Department of Transportation are partnering with AI developers, material manufacturers, academia and national laboratories, infrastructure owners, and other market participants to revolutionize construction longevity and efficiency. AI can run structural, energy, and material data sets orders of multiple magnitudes faster than conventional methods, enabling breakthroughs in design, predictive maintenance, and cost-effective decommissioning. To rebuild American industrial strength, a number of challenges on AI-enhanced manufacturing to usher in an era of digital-assisted reindustrialization must occur. AI allows integration of real-time data from machines, products, processes, and supply chains. AI tools will help navigate dynamic industrial systems to find inefficiency gains and uncover new manufacturing methods and products. Now, to protect the nation from emerging threats, whether natural, accidental, or deliberate, the early detection and attribution of biological threats stands out as an especially pressing challenge. AI platforms can integrate metagenomic, clinical, and environmental signals to detect anomalous biological signatures, characterize novel behavior from sparse data, and give public health authorities the ability to rapidly and accurately discern the origin of biological instinct and design and countermeasures. By employing AI to address these challenges, we're extending the frontiers of American discovery. At the heart of the Genesis mission as a whole is the dream of producing autonomous physical laboratories that accelerate the pace of inquiry, a grand challenge in and of itself. Now, our old institutions and conventional experimental processes will become bottlenecks that slow the cycle of hypothesis, experimentation, discovery, enabled by AI, unless we build the tools fit for direct AI use. Here is where we are seeing the thrilling, self-reinforcing dynamic of AI for science, as the application of AI to the conduct of science drives progress in AI for science. Now, this is a virtuous cycle that will advance our understanding of the world around us for generations to come. I am so grateful that all of you are part of this. America's most creative minds in the industries have always answered the call when our country needed them most. The Genesis mission is that call to you to advance American scientific leadership in this grand era of artificial intelligence. We are setting for ourselves one grand challenge composed of many grand challenges, and I trust that we will soon see what new frontiers these efforts open for all of us. Thank you so much, and good luck today.
All right, before we get started, we still have some open seats over here in the back if the people that are standing want to sit down. Next, it's my privilege and honor to introduce Secretary of Energy, Chris Wright. Secretary Wright is truly the best person in the right job at the right time right now. He knows the energy landscape as a lifelong energy entrepreneur. And he knows what it's like from his time at MIT to be at the bench and know where the discoveries come from. You're going to see that he doesn't just know science and technology, he's passionate about it. And we couldn't ask for a better ally and a better leader in the department for this Genesis mission. Ladies and gentlemen, Energy Secretary Chris Wright.
Man, the energy and feeling in this room is tremendous. Like, I could step down right now and this would be a highlight of my day. I look at the people in this room and think of the mission, transforming science and energy with AI. This crew of people in this room and your colleagues across the country and around the world truly are going to transform science and energy with AI. What is AI? AI to me is this supercharger of human capabilities. It doesn't replace humans. AI doesn't have love, it doesn't have compassion, it doesn't have a soul. It makes humans more powerful. I get asked often, what's the greatest invention, the greatest machine on planet Earth? To me, it isn't even close. It's the human mind, the human spirit, the human soul. When I look at what humans can do and have done, it's unbelievable. As a kid in high school, I loved physics. When I first learned about how we understood how the world worked and what planets and stars and how we grasp this understanding of the physical world, I was always deeply envious that the late 1800s and the early 1900s, this incredible transformation in our understanding of the physical world, that I wasn't there. now the cool stuff happened, and now we're working on details. I want to go back in time. I want to be there then. But we are there. We are there. I think we will see a more rapid transformation of human understanding of nature, of physics, of how to harness beneficial technologies for humans. The next 10 years will be the most revolutionary 10 years in the scientific and energy worlds in human history. It is an honor for all of us to be here and to be partners in this noble endeavor. People worry about AI. Like, if you make an incredibly powerful tool, is there a risk of bad things happening? Of course, absolutely. That's also up to us. When you unleash an incredibly powerful weapon, weapon's the wrong word, but it can be used as a weapon. So, I've often compared what's happening right now to the Manhattan Project, which was explicitly designed as a weapon, right? I think it was the greatest group science endeavor ever until the coming 10 years, until what you're about to embark on. But it transformed the world by developing a weapon in rapid efforts. We brought World War II to an earlier end than it otherwise would have. That saved tens, maybe hundreds of thousands of lives. And it ushered in a new era that said, well, war, it's a stickier issue now. And we have had in the last 80 years the most peaceful period we know of in human history, the lowest risk of violent death ever. And it's because we developed incredibly powerful weapons. We developed them in the United States, not a power looking to conquer nations or remake the world, a power looking to grow prosperity and trade and freedom across the world. Enormous benefits from that project. AI is the same thing, but even, I hate to say it, but even bigger. Even bigger. I don't know what we're going to see in the next decade, but I'm going to learn some of that from you all today. But I could not be more excited, from human health, from materials, from transforming our energy system. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh. But I look in this room, proud to be with you, proud to be on this team. We're announcing today, and I think it'll be on the website soon, 278 winners, a lot of whom are in the room today. And that sounds like, well, that's a lot of winners. That's participation trophies, 278. We had over 5,000 applications, by far and away the greatest response to any DOE outreach ever. We had 400 people at the Department of Energy and across our national labs who worked their butts off to evaluate all of these applications from businesses, from universities, from the national labs, to find the 278 that were just absolutely exceptional. 99 universities are in the winners of that across our country. We have partnership with Japan. You'll hear from them later. This will be, of course, a broadly international effort as well. Across our national lab system, 19 companies, 19 innovative, leaning-in companies are winners here today, and 2 nonprofits. We're going to hear about a lot of things, so I better be faster. A few quick areas. We're going to hear about critical minerals. I was in the Situation Room last spring for a number of different meetings where leverage was being applied against the United States because our supply chains were, anything with a button on it has a rare earth element magnet in it. And if you can't produce and deliver those reliably, you're at risk. We've got to reduce that risk. And with AI and the scientists and technologists in this room, we're going to do it. Intelligent chip design. Our world has been transformed by semiconductors, computing, now AI computing. We're going to use AI tools to improve chip design. Fusion energy. I went to college several decades ago, 10, 15, 20, maybe 25 years ago, to work on fusion energy, an incredibly challenging problem. We've made progress, but still haven't got there. I believe with AI, we will get there. And our first phase 2 winner, the first large award at $60 million federal dollars over 3 years, is in the field of nuclear energy to use AI to, yes. Here's a technology from the Manhattan Project. Its main application, of course, has been for peaceful use for energy around the world. And if you've seen the news recently, some of it related to AI, we need more energy. We need more energy. The fundamental physics of nuclear are phenomenal, but the cost, partially for regulatory reasons, for engineering reasons, for scientific reasons, has held it back. But that's going to change with this giant AI effort to design, permit, construct, and operate a nuclear power plant. Build it at half the cost, operate it at half the cost, improve the safety of it. Like massive, massive wins are coming. That particular project brought with it a massive number of industry partners and $200 million of contributions from, I think, across well over a dozen companies. So this is what coming together and using this powerful tool, we can transform the future. We can make the lives of our kids and our grandchildren better than our lives. There is no higher goal. That's what the Genesis mission is about. You're about to hear from the leader of Genesis mission, my good friend and partner in all of this, Dario Gil. But God bless you all. Thank you for what you're doing. I'm very excited to be on this rocket ship with you all.
Thank you very much, Secretary Wright, and thank you for being here today to support. Next, as the Secretary mentioned, we're going to hear from Dr. Dario Gil, the Undersecretary of Science and the Director of the Genesis mission. And that doesn't give him enough credit for the driving force that he is of this Genesis mission. His vision, his persistent drive to do something as fast as we have done it, which we'll talk about during a little bit today, is really unheard of in the federal government and in the Department of Energy. And it would not be possible without someone of Dr. Gil's background, insight, and vision. It's very exciting for him to join us today to walk us through the technical aspects of the Genesis mission and dive a little deeper into what we're trying to do. So ladies and gentlemen, please give a big round of applause for the Director of the Genesis mission.
Thank you. Well, good morning. Good morning. Yeah, so exciting to be with all of you. So I want to do something with you. I want to share with you a number of scientists that are going to come on stage and present evidence that this transformation of how we can accelerate AI for science is not a vision in the distant future. It is happening right now. And we are unlocking enormous potential and capabilities for science and engineering and for the practice of R&D in our country. Perhaps the best known example of recent successes in applying AI to accelerate discovery is what has happened in biology. We're very familiar with the terrific success of predicting protein structure, the three-dimensional structure of proteins. Proteins are building blocks of life. We have a string of amino acids that actually encode the three-dimensional structure of these proteins, and they can be represented with 20 letters. And there was an effort that got started in 1971 at Brookhaven National Laboratory, working with a number of collaborators, to map the structure of these proteins. And they were using experimental techniques to illuminate them with X-rays and find the diffraction pattern or specially prepare samples and create the three-dimensional representation of what biology tells us those proteins look like. And at the time it was started, that fantastic effort, it just had about a dozen proteins. Well, it took 50 years of effort of an enormous community, biologists and experimentalists, to assemble a database that had 200,000 proteins. And then, with the advent of modern AI and large-scale neural networks, it was possible by a team at Alpha, at DeepMind, on a project called AlphaFold, to predict 200 million structures in just a couple of years. So 200,000 structures, 50 years, and then we went to 200 million in just 2 years. And this is an example of dealing with the complexity that is present in biology. We've seen more recent examples of beautiful work that is being done by Brian He and his collaborators at Stanford, where they're actually taking DNA sequences and using it to create a DNA language model, where what you are predicting is basically the next base of the base sequence. And it's amazing that a model just trained on DNA can actually encode also RNA and proteins. And now they are scaling these capabilities to models with tens of billions of parameters and 9 trillion base pairs across 128,000 species. So you see this intuition that biology has this complexity that we have struggled as a scientific community to understand. And now we have a new toolkit with which to be able to encode the complexity that is present in these biological processes, and now finally start to attain that complexity, find new levels of understanding. And while that has been the case in AI for biology, and there's so much more to be done there, I want to invite a series of short talks by brilliant scientists to tell you that this is happening across all fields of science. So you are going to see how this is touching AI implications for mathematics. You're going to hear in a second the implications for imaging. We're going to see what is possible to model the electric grid in new ways. And you're going to see what is possible to also transform national security through AI and advanced manufacturing. So first, I want to invite Terry Tao. Professor Tao is a field medalist winner, and without a doubt, one of the great mathematicians in the world. And his contributions to so many areas of mathematics are legendary. But one thing I greatly admire about Professor Tao is that also he has been a pioneer of exploring the implications of modern AI to mathematics. And you're going to hear about the radical changes that are happening in the field as a consequence of the progress of this technology. So it's my great pleasure to welcome on stage Terry. Here you are. Thank
very much. Very pleased to be here. Very exciting event. Very timely, certainly in mathematics. Mathematics is really being transformed almost by the week because it is an amazing development in our subject. And it's really a combination of many things. So one is AI, which is providing the raw power, providing all kinds of new solutions to math problems that have stood over for decades, but also paired with formal verification, which is a complementary technology that allows you to check these answers, because AI sometimes makes mistakes, but we can now filter them out. And also modern collaborative tools to allow humans and AIs and these formal verifiers to work together seamlessly. So it's transforming our field very unevenly, but ultimately in a very promising way. Some aspects of mathematics are accelerating very, very rapidly. Problem solving, code generation, automatically formalizing proofs, refactoring, and searching literature. These are extremely, have been, they've been almost 10-fold, 100-fold accelerated. Other parts of mathematics are catching up. We are only now inventing new ways to collaborate to take full advantage of these new technologies. Traditionally, we work in small groups, 1 or 2, I still use blackboards. It's pen and paper, but we are beginning to modernize our workflows. But we do have many new challenges. All these new technologies are creating new traffic jams, bottlenecks. Peer review is now extremely bottlenecked. We need to rapidly modernize our math education system and support our junior faculty more. But we will solve these problems, and we will in a completely new era. So, I don't have much time, so I'll just give you one or two data points on how things are being accelerated. This is a graphic illustrating the Erdős problems. It's a set of 1,200 very influential problems that Paul Erdős posed in the 20th century. I solved some of these myself. A year ago, about 300 of these problems, of these 1,200 were solved. Now it's almost 500. It's not entirely due to AI, but if you know this graph, every time a new model is released, there's a notable spike in most solutions. It's been playing a huge role in this benchmark. I'd love to talk more about this, but we have 4 minutes. Another place in which we have really transformed one aspect of our work is automatically verifying answers. So for centuries, when you write a proof, you can only be verified by hand. You can have to check the pen and paper, referees, that the argument is correct. There were, we have had automatic computer verification for decades, but it took, it used to take years or even decades to actually enter in a proof correctly into the computer and check that everything worked. But it's accelerated amazingly. So in the 70s, it took decades to formally verify a theorem. There was a major open problem solved by an AI last month, and within days, like multiple formalizations appeared. We're completely confident that these things are correct. So those are 2 places where things have been really accelerating, and actually DARPA has been launching a massive challenge to auto-formalize all the extant math literature. And this is really what's making AI usable. Otherwise, we have a flood of proofs and arguments which we can't trust. And so the pairing of AI and more verification is absolutely essential. And so what we have to do now is identify new ways to collaborate and really take full advantage of all these new capabilities. We are launching massive new collaborative projects, either to formalize huge amounts of mathematics or to generate huge amounts of new data sets, organized on modern internet platforms. We are launching new internet competitions where unlimited AI use will be verified every single submission in an extremely stringent way. And as part of the Genesis mission, we're going to try to really initiate high interdisciplinary collaborations with science and industry, really bring AI-powered mathematics to the rest of the sciences. So if I want to summarize where we are in mathematics, for centuries we're in an era of proof scarcity where we were always short on proofs. We always wanted to prove, we were always searching for proofs on unsolved problems. We're going to enter an era of abundance where we have more proofs than we know what to deal with. And so we have other problems in mathematics, other challenges, but this is where we are right now. So thank you.
Thank you, Terry. So my next guest that I want to invite on stage is Laurent Chapon, who is the Associate Lab Director of Open Sciences at Argonne National Laboratory. Under his leadership, the Advanced Photon Source in Argonne became the world's brightest synchrotron in 2024. And he and his team have been pioneering the implications of AI for imaging, and he's going to show some amazing results.
Well, thanks very much. It's super exciting. So I'm going to switch gear and tell you about how AI is accelerating science at the Scientific User Facility that we have in Complex. So many of you know the US is home to the best scattering facilities. I'm talking about light sources, neutron sources in the world. They generate a huge amount of data, right? So this large machine should actually, your entry point, one of the entry points into the microscopic world, down to atomic precision. And they're wonderful. They produce beams of X-rays or neutrons that are billions of times brighter than what you can do conventionally. And this is really amazing. I'll show you what we can do nowadays through an example using a microchip. So what you see on this screen here is a microchip. The field of view is about 50 micron. That's actually smaller than the thickness of a human hair. And with advanced X-ray technology nowadays, you can go in 3 dimension, non-destructively, and inspect such microchip to the finest details. So you see here all in red, all of the metal lines. You can go deep, you can probe different layers and things like that. This is really amazing, down to the smallest feature at the nanoscale. Now, the sensors that we use are not recording like a conventional camera. They're not recording directly a representation of reality. They are recording a very complex pattern that encodes this reality. So most of the game is actually to go from what we measure to this wonderful image and video that I show you here. So how do we do that? Typically, in a conventional experiment without AI, which was the case not so long ago, you do an experiment, you collect data. By the way, this facility together, collectively, measure the equivalent of 150 million movies every year. That's a huge amount of data. Then you use advanced computing, mathematics, solvers, analysis, to actually get the insight that you want to get from this structure. And so when the experiment side takes only a few minutes or hours, the rest of the data analysis pipelines can take days, and in the most extreme case, weeks. So with AI, everything is changing. You do a lot of experiments, you create large data bank, and very like the protein challenge that we heard this morning. From these large data banks, you can build vision model. This vision model can help do real-time analysis of these massive structures in real time. And so this is an example of the work we've done for Genesis. This is a collaboration between Berkeley, Brookhaven, SLAC, Oak Ridge, and Argonne. And when you see on the top left-hand side, the circular pattern is the image that we see on the detector. It has nothing to do with the representation of the chip that we see on the right-hand side. And as we scan the X-ray through this specimen, the AI model is able in real time to reconstruct the data, something that was impossible only a few months ago. And so you go from something that takes hours to something that takes essentially real time. This is done at 200 images per second. There's at least a factor 100 in speed up, and it impacts everything we do. I'll finish by saying one thing. I've never seen a transformation like that in 25 years in scattering facility. This is unbelievable, but this is only the start. Once you have real-time application like that, what you do, you can have machine actionable representation of the rest, which is finding features, extracting features, finding anomalies in a sample like that. And once you do that, everything becomes agentic and become completely autonomous. And that's the direction of travel in this field. It will impact most of the things we do, whether you look at manufacturing processes, whether you want to accelerate natural discovery, guiding new enzyme, biotech. The applications are immense, and the speed is absolutely unbelievable. So thank you again for the opportunity.
So from the very small to the very large. So I am going to invite now Dr. Hendrik Hammond, who is the Chief AI Scientist at Brookhaven National Laboratory and also a professor at Stony Brook. And he has spent his career working at the intersection of high-performance computing and AI and big data. And he's going to tell you about the amazing results of using AI to model the electric grid.
Okay, so I'm very excited to be here. The electric grid is arguably the most important critical infrastructure, powering literally everything we depend on. The electric grid is also one of the largest and most complex systems humanity has ever built. Like there are 200 million access points in the US, 150 million transformers, 10 million energy resources, 7 million miles of wires, and much more. It's all interacting nearly at the speed of light. Now, to control this grid, we must very carefully control, balance the flow of electricity through this vast network. If we don't, disaster strikes, right? Outages can occur. However, we must not only control these flows in the moment, but also in hours, in days, in weeks, in months, and even years ahead. And that is really where the challenge starts. Because the future has many, many possibilities. Demand, generation, weather is all uncertain. So when you combine all these possibilities, the number of plausible scenarios which we must consider can reach billions and even more. However, today, we only analyze a few, which is crazy considering that we are in the midst of a massive and unprecedented expansion of our grid. Now here's where AI can come in, where AI actually must come in. So instead of doing it the old way, taking a few scenarios, each is being solved from the beginning iteratively with complex and somewhat slow physics solvers, we've built actually grid foundation models which learn the direct relationship between topology demand and energy consumption. And because it learns it directly, it's much faster. And that's what we need. Now, unlike language foundation models, which are trained on text, our models are trained on the language of the grid. That means voltages, power, frequency, across a broad set of conditions. So the model learns how to predict the physics of the grid, enabling us to evaluate billions of scenarios rapidly, not only rapidly, but also accurately and robustly. Because as you can imagine, grid AI modeling is a national scale challenge. You're collaborating across the board with utilities, hyperscalers, universities. It's really a community effort. We've already achieved speed-ups of up to 1,000, but don't worry, we're not done. Without AI, for example, data center interconnection simulation studies take months, sometimes years. Now we can do it literally in minutes. Without AI, we plan and operate the grid scenario pool. But with AI, we can remove the blindfolds. Without AI, the grid's complexity, the grid's uncertainty is a challenge. In fact, it's a threat, it's a nightmare. With AI, it can actually be a huge opportunity. So I want to leave you with this. AI is often considered to be a burden on the grid. But with Genesis, the opposite can actually be true. It is actually a huge opportunity to build the most secure, affordable, and reliable grid for the American people.
All right, and my last guest for this plenary talk is Siva Rajamanikam, who is a distinguished member of the technical staff at Sandia National Laboratories, and he is going to show you an amazing project in the field of national security. So Siva.
Thank you. Excited to be here. Let us look at how AI and advanced manufacturing can transform nation security applications. I want to draw your attention to this project called AD-STAR. AD-STAR is a Genesis mission demonstrator. The focus of AD-STAR is flight test vehicles. Flight test vehicles help us study and measure the heat and vibrations experienced by a payload. They're quite complicated to build. Takes years to build. Very, very expensive to build. Takes tens of millions of dollars. When we started this project last November, our goal was to have this done in a matter of months. Now we have the advantage of using AI. We have the advantage of using advanced manufacturing, but we also had the foundation that we have built for the past several decades. We have scientific software, our data, our on-prem HPC compute, which is the best in the world, our manufacturing facilities, and above all, wealth of domain expertise in our scientific staff. Now with that, we, NNSA Labs and Liverpool and Las Vegas, joined forces with our manufacturing partner in Kansas City to execute Genesis mission. Now I wanted to focus on one aspect of Genesis mission first. The problem here is to focus on designing a payload structure. Given a set of objectives, a set of constraints, we want to build the payload structure. We developed an agent-driven topology optimization approach to do this. Agents go and explore this vast search to find the best design. Then humans pick the best design out of this to manufacture. Here is an example. The insert shows you 16 different designs that the tool was able to produce. We chose one to manufacture that is zoomed in there. You can see how non-intuitive this design is. This is not something a human would produce. And that is number one. Number two is you won't even consider this design if you don't have advanced manufacturing. That's number two. So it is this combination that helps you. And you can go look at this design in the vehicle that is standing outside in the hallways if you're interested. Now I want to zoom out. We didn't only design the payload structure. We used AI to design the payload itself. We used AI to place sensors on its flight test vehicle. We actually did a flight test and that way proving grounds in Utah last month. And then finally we used some innovative manufacturing techniques. Well, this entire thing can be built in one shot. It is like a Russian nested dolls. And the whole thing is nested and you can build this in 1 week. So, what is the result of this project? Genesis mission scientists brought the AI expertise, Ares died brought the domain expertise. From a clean sheet of requirements, we were able to do the first production in 3 months and the first flight test in 8 months. Now you might wonder how does this affect you actually? You come from a different domain and not from nation security. What we have done is taken all these tools, the way to access models, and put it in the Genesis platform. And you'll be able to use the same platform we used to build this Ares toy. Now there is this notion that if you have a complex problem like this, you have to choose 2 out of 3, better, faster, or cheaper. With a technology like AI, Ares time is one example where you can go for better, faster, and cheaper. Thank you.
Wow. I find that really compelling and persuasive. It tells you that this is happening right now. And it brings to bear that sometimes when we give the historical analogy to previous moments of mobilization, like Apollo program or the Manhattan Project, of why we have chosen not to do one thing but many. Because all these fields are going to be transformed by science and engineering. So I want to take the opportunity now to share with you as plainly as I can, what is the Genesis mission? What are we trying to do technically? And how will we succeed? What is it? We are doing 3 things. The first thing is we have constructed a portfolio of national science and technology challenges to activate the best scientists and engineers in America to solve those problems, creative new ways with new tools. Second, we are building collaboratively a platform to accelerate scientific discovery. And third, we want to invest in the next generation of scientists that are educated with these dual competencies. Earlier this year, we announced 26 national challenges. I don't expect all of you to read them. They're all been published for a while, but they span the full range of the mission of the Department of Energy. Energy from both nuclear, fusion, the electric grid, you saw examples right now, discovery science, and national security. Today, Director Kratzius announced that now the Genesis mission has 20 federal agencies that are coming together. This is an outstanding moment of uniting full strength the federal science and technology ecosystem. As a result of this expansion and partnership, we are expanding a subset of the national challenges. You see here highlighted in green, areas in which we're expanding the scope of the original challenge as a consequence of the collaboration with other agencies. And we're adding new ones, now spanning space, human health, defense, and veterans health. We're incredibly excited. So this is a new set of the revised set of now 33 national science and technology challenges. We will keep refining and expanding as appropriate, but these now reflect the full strength of these 20 different agencies and departments coming together. Now, with just the original set of 26, earlier this year we selected 21 of those and put a call for proposals, the RFA that Secretary Wright announced the results of. Today, we're announcing 278 awards with over $250 million of funding. There are 342 participating institutions. You see in the color coding that they reflect national labs, higher ed, companies, nonprofits, and that they represent all 50 states. It's a true national mission representing talent from across the country. I expect all of you to memorize this. When later you go and see the poster session that is next to us, you'll have an opportunity to see just a list of all the participating institutions. And you're gonna get a chance to also see some of the highlighted projects that are being executed. But it gives you a sense of the scale. It gives you a sense of the talent that we're bringing to bear into this space and the capacity that we have in our great country to be able to innovate. I want to just briefly highlight an example that Secretary Wright highlighted, Project Prometheus, which is how to bring the power of AI to accelerate and deliver nuclear energy that is faster, safer, and cheaper. I highlight it not only because it's the first example of the phase 2 of the awards. I want to also share with you that we will be announcing the remaining of the phase 2 awards by early fall, hopefully early to mid-September. So we're thick on that process. But this project involves 32 partners uniting national laboratories, industry, and universities. And it is a tour de force of bringing all the frontier capability in terms of agentic orchestration, how do you do persistent digital threads, and physics-informed surrogates. A surrogate, an example of a surrogate is what you saw Hendrik discuss in modeling the grid, where you can go and instead of having those sort of initial physics-based simulations, you can do something much more efficient than before, as well as provable cyber assurance. So this is going to be a magnificent project whose end goal is to dramatically lower the cost and the time to realize the nuclear renaissance in the United States. If you're a PI, one of the things I want to do for you, one of my gifts I want to give to you is each one of you give you a challenge coin. Because you're the inaugural teams. Will be many teams to come. So if you could just take a minute if you're in the audience and maybe raise your hand and stop up if you're a PI or a participant in one of those projects, we would love to celebrate you for a minute. Fantastic. We're so full of joy. You went through the most competitive process that we've ever done. There were many also additional outstanding teams, and we wish we could have supported many more of them. But we're very proud of what you proposed to us. So I want to second explain what are we trying to do in building this platform to accelerate science. This is a science-first strategy. So the underpinning of everything we do is based on the scientific method. And we are going to exploit every capability we have on theory, on measurement, bringing our national user facilities, and the distributed facilities we have built over decades across America's science and technology ecosystem, the world of simulation, both for high-performance computing or classical supercomputers, and we're also within Genesis, we announced Quantum Genesis to bring forth the first generation of fault-tolerant quantum computers by 2028. We have as a North Star also to bring and create a first generation of user facilities to support the scientific community. So this is a huge aspect of what we're going to push for. We're bringing AI models and agents, and the capability that they bring to bear is that they can encode and semantically connect scientific knowledge and realize a dream that has been in the field for over 300 years since Leibniz. That we can take all knowledge and encode it and represent it efficiently in a new representation. These models now can reason and efficiently predict. You saw examples that we experience every day with LLMs, but you saw what Hendrik and others showed with surrogate models, where we can dramatically accelerate simulation. And interestingly and fascinatingly, we can create an act. We have agents now that can write code and can take action and execute complex scientific workflows. Now with this capability, we are envisioning a future where we create an internet of science. In the original internet, the end nodes of the computing of the devices were computers, and the orchestration was a TCP/IP protocol. In the modern world of an internet of science, the end nodes are both computers and scientific instruments. Particle accelerators, and telescopes, and microscopes, and additive manufacturing, and the orchestration is enabled by this agentic capability that can pass through complex scientific understanding of workflows and orchestration. Now you saw the example a minute ago of ARIS-TIE, where multiple national laboratories and a manufacturing environment allowed agents to use high-performance computing and simulation code and additive manufacturing to execute a project that was multiple times faster than what you could do before. Well, if you look at a graph like this, it kind of reminds you a little bit of what happened 50 years ago. In 1969, there was a diagram that looked like this. It was just a few nodes, a few computers being connected to one another. This was ARPANET. In 1971, there were 15 nodes that were connected. In 1980, there were 50 nodes that were connected. And we know where the story goes. So one of the key things we are going to do in the Genesis mission is to connect our national laboratories and our user facilities and our university colleagues to a federated approach and our industry partners in creating an internet of science. And if we look ahead a few years from now, what would success look like across these dimensions? So I'll ask it as a series of questions. Do we, the United States, have the most comprehensive ecosystem of high-performance computers for simulation? Have we built the world's most powerful AI supercomputers for science, engineering, and medicine? Have we realized the first generation of fault-tolerant quantum computers? Does the United States, through its private sector partners, have the best open and proprietary frontier AI models? Have we built the most powerful and capable science and engineering models on top of those proprietary and open models? And have we built the most comprehensive and fastest growing internet of science? These questions will be answerable. They're quantitative, they can be measured, and it is our goal as a nation and with our partners to realize and making sure that we lead and we deliver this capability for the scientific and engineering community of our country. And finally, and arguably perhaps most importantly, we gotta commit again to motivate and inspire a whole new generation of Americans to go into science and engineering. In 1957, following Sputnik, there was a piece of legislation that was passed called the National Defense Education Act. And when combined also with the Apollo program, a whole generation of Americans entered science and engineering. Enrollment in PhD programs following the passage of NDEA increased 10% per year for a decade. So it is time for us to also consider the ambition of what will we have to do to motivate a whole new generation of Americans to go into science and engineering. And for that, we need deep partnership with our university colleagues and deep partnerships with Congress. Today, we're also announcing the expansion of the Genesis Mission Consortium beyond industry and philanthropy and our national laboratories to our university institutions. So I want to encourage for universities listening to go to genesismissionconsortium.org. We have prepared documents for us to begin that dialogue and have engaged. We have spent months working collaboratively with many universities to design this. And if you have an interest in participating, you can join the interest forum. And I also want to give a plug to attend the congressional panel at 3:45, where there's going to be some exciting dialogue on this topic of what are the right legislative actions also to motivate the next generation of Americans in science and engineering, and also for the Genesis mission. And I want to close by the how. If that was the what, a national portfolio, a platform, and programs to support participation in science and engineering, equally important is that we mobilize the full strength of the nation's $1 trillion a year R&D ecosystem. Federal government spends $200 billion a year, private sector spends $700 billion a year, and the rest is spent by the states, universities, and philanthropies. So from the very beginning, we have created a consortium that can bring and aggregate investment and alignment to purpose and mission through the Genesis Consortium. We have also designed explicitly into our program that collaboration is required. So if you saw that map before, you saw how many participating institutions were there. Labs, universities, the private sector coming together. And then, and fundamental to the mission, is the partnership with our allies. You're going to hear very briefly a discussion also with the ambassador from Japan that is going to have a discussion with Harriet Green, and Harriet Kung, and you're going to see how powerful it is to have allies that have a shared sense of mission and purpose. So in the Genesis Mission Consortium, we have well over 40 industry participants, nonprofits. You can go to this website and see it. On aggregate, over $800 million worth of contributions towards the Genesis mission have been put forth. It's a phenomenal recognition of the power of collaboration. This is the partnership with Japan. You're going to hear more about it. $1 billion commitment over 5 years to invest both in platform, the research infrastructure, and national challenges to collaborate to solve problems that really matter to our respective countries. So I'll close now with a call to action. Look, there are few times when we have an opportunity to come together as a country to do something that is much larger than ourselves. It is in that context that we give the historical parallels to previous moments of mobilization. But this time, it's even larger and bigger on the number of participants that need to come together. And here's what I would say too. I am not arguing that this is the only national effort that we should do in science and technology. Far from it. But if we cannot agree on this one, that this computing revolution is transforming the practice of science and engineering, what is so obvious that we're all going to agree on as the second and the third and the fourth? Let's demonstrate the potential where we see plenty of evidence that this is transforming every single field. And this is a moment also for us to come together, to work across sectors, to work collaboratively, and realize this premise. And once we learn how to do this again, that we can have a decentralized approach at moments of unity, at moments of working and doing really ambitious things together, we will learn that we can do a second and a third and a fourth and a fifth at a scale that we could never do before. Thank you, congratulations to all the award winners. We're very proud of you, and we wish you all the success in the world. Thank you.
First time, like it was the first time that
근데 촛불 아니냐? 이거 けるし皆さんの長官とか言って聞いちゃうんです。まあ、それ音はいらないので、4人が5人が並んでるところだけ撮ってもらって、皆さんの長官とか言って。
Well, I hope everyone was inspired and received more detail and more insight into what is trying to be accomplished with the Genesis mission. Clearly a lot, but there's a path, and there's an ability for us to come together to accomplish what Undersecretary Gill so eloquently demonstrated along with the other demonstrations. Today, we're lucky to be joined with the CTO of the United States, Dr. Ethan Klein. The Genesis mission has been said that it doesn't just represent a whole of DOE effort. As you saw with our interagency partners, it's a whole of government effort and truly a whole of country and with our international partners worldwide effort. So today, we will welcome Dr. Ethan Klein up to the stage here for a leadership panel that includes the Director of NIH, Dr. Jay Bacharatan, the NASA Administrator, Jared Isaacman, Undersecretary of War for Research and Development, Emil Michael, and the Chief of Staff of the National Science Foundation, Brian Stone.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
Okay, come on up, Ethan. Thank you all for joining us.
You guys are all part of Genesis mission now, so wherever you want amongst family here. Well, first, just to everybody who's here, what an exciting day. I know you've already heard from Secretary Wright, from Undersecretary Gill, and Director Kratsios, but it's just been so incredible to see how far this mission has come over in truly in under a year. And I think one of the most exciting points that Director Kratsios had mentioned that we from the White House care about is to have, truly the entire federal R&D enterprise now a part of this Genesis mission. And so I just want to say a huge thank you to the Department of Energy on all of their incredible work to develop out this American science and security platform. And with this initial batch of national S&T challenges, which today we're so excited to see as an expanded set of S&T challenges that's really bringing to bear, the entire federal R&D budget, near $200 billion that we are moving towards this new era of AI-enabled scientific discovery. And with the announcement of over $5 billion today, I just want to give our panelists here an opportunity to first to speak to how their departments and agencies view the Genesis mission, the announcements that we have today, and what they're most excited about. So with that, Jay, why don't you kick it off?
Well, first, Ethan, thanks for having me here, and thanks for allowing us to participate in Biogenesis. I'm calling it Biogenesis. It's Genesis, but I think the NIH is an incredible organization, and to watch it embrace AI in every aspect of what we do, from basic scientific discovery to clinical application, to the design of randomized trials and mundane things that are like fundamental, like recruitment of patients, to solving pediatric cancer. All of this is so exciting, and the investments and the organization that's been put to this, the energy that's been put to this through Project Genesis, the collaboration with our DOE colleagues and with NSF and all the folks you see here, it's an absolutely, it's just, I'm getting chills just thinking about it. I think I wrote some things up, so I might read them. So let me just say, we have amazing tools now that look to me like science fiction. That we can solve problems that were just completely insoluble before. Everyone knows about the protein structure, right? That's not going to solve the problem, but it's so much closer than ever thought would be possible. But what about understanding how the genome works, how it interacts with the cells? Models of the cells so that we can better figure out what drugs are likely to work or not likely to work in human bodies.
things that we just couldn't imagine before we can do now. It's the collaboration with our agency colleagues, the focus on getting compute power at the hands of scientists readily without any paperwork. Certainly, there's always paperwork, but there's as little bureaucratic hassle as possible. It's a super exciting time to be alive, and I'm grateful for all of the folks at the NIH and for OCP for making this possible.
Well, let me just add what Jay said. First of all, at the National Science Foundation, we are just very pleased to be part of this effort. People often ask, how do you work with the other agencies, or we should partner more. We are absolutely in lockstep with all the agencies here today. We have a tremendous relationship here with the DOE. I think they're pretty much one of our biggest federal partners. So when people say, how do you feel about working with DOE? We work with them every day, and this is going to be even better. So for 76 years, NSF has been focusing on foundational research. And Director Kratsios mentioned in his remarks the Golden Age of Science document. And in there, you're going to see a lot of references to foundational science. That's what we do at the Foundation. And we support everything, basically every discipline from astronomy to zoology and everything in between. The thing that we're most excited about is the fact that anytime the government harnesses this kind of horsepower, I think the key thing for when people ask me about the Genesis mission, I'm like, look, anytime we get this amount of horsepower together, and we start pulling in the same direction, amazing things start to happen. That is, like, from a national security standpoint, from a productivity, economic standpoint, you can get government agencies working with the level of coordination that we're going to have on the Genesis mission, get out of the way and watch out. Because that's all of the significant events that we've had in the U.S. have, all the things that Dario was mentioning and the things that he talked about in his remarks. These significant events involve this level of deep coordination across federal agencies, and that's where we're on the edge of here. That's what's so exciting. I'm sure we'll talk about what we're putting in, but like I said, we're just very happy to be here and really excited about the kinds of contributions that we're going to make and unlocking the science for the future.
Thanks for having me here, Ethan. The Department of War, people sometimes forget we're a department of 3.5 million employees, active duty, civilian, and we run schools, hospitals, military bases, people live on ships, but really all kinds of different avenues where we gather data, we need intelligence, and we do so many things that being able to contribute to this mission gives us both a lot of things to contribute across all these dimensions, a lot of benefits to get, which is why we're able to contribute nearly $250 million just this year, and next year about $1.4 billion to the Genesis mission. So really big numbers that we're proud of because we think the collaboration between DOE and Genesis and the Department of War is going to be so important. When you just think about things like quantum computing, biomanufacturing, dynamics, all the things that go into the variety of things we do at the department, quantum sensing data, you name it, there's so much we do together. We also have a big compute initiative because of how AI is becoming more important in every facet of what we do from a war and defense standpoint. Combining that with what's being done in energy is going to be one of the most synergistic, amazing things we can possibly do. I'm really excited we're starting this term with this kind of energy and this kind of commitment from people up here. Thank you.
Well, first, just want to say how incredibly grateful I am at NASA for the Genesis mission. I think this is absolutely genius from President Trump, Director Kratsios, Dario, the Chief Technology Officer of the United States of America, bring this whole of government effort of which we would not be able to least at NASA, undertake to achieve many of the great scientific discoveries that are on the horizon without this capability, which is being possible without our budget. So being able to contribute in, for example, NASA, which we estimate over $100 million in the next few years, but combined with great investments from DOW across the scientific community and the nation, is very enabling. So I'll tell you two areas that I am extremely excited about what we'll be able to do with the Genesis mission. For starting, what have we missed, and what are we likely to miss in the years ahead? To give you an example, just through archival data, and NASA has accumulated enormous amounts of data. A teenager last year, I've seen some of the headlines on this, through NASA's archival data with off-the-shelf AI applications, discovered a new galaxy. Now, you would think that's something we probably shouldn't overlook. Happen to be over 2 trillion out there, so I guess it's not that unusual. But this problem, or perhaps opportunity, is only going to get bigger in the years ahead. For example, on August 30th, a Falcon Heavy will launch the nation's greatest exploration asset ever, the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope. To put this a little bit in perspective, we're talking about 100 times the field of view of the Hubble with 1,000 times the scan rate. Right? We're going to get an awful lot of data. And we were just talking actually before this started that when you combine Vera Rubin Observatory from National Science Foundation with the NEO Surveyor Telescope, we're going to be able to catalog potentially all of the dangerous asteroids in a very short period of time, which will give us opportunities for planetary protection missions in the future, which again is just incredibly exciting. So think about access to AI, what we may have missed, what we may learn in the future, answers to questions we haven't even thought to ask yet. And the second is when it comes to technological development. You know, you have an appreciation, it's hard actually to have an appreciation for the scale of our solar system, let alone the Milky Way galaxy around us in the universe, and to overcome that tyranny of distance in the pursuit of world-changing scientific breakthroughs. Right? We're going to have to leverage AI partnerships with DOE to advance new forms of propulsion. I mean, we are reaching the limits of chemical propulsion, which releases a negligible amount of energy and matter. So as we look to fission-based propulsion mechanisms or fusion, which is another obvious evolution of it before, which we're still talking about fractions of energy potential of matter before maybe we get to some of the really exotic stuff that help us pursue and extend our reach into other star systems. So all of these endeavors, which are really exciting to just talk about, and certainly in pursuit of the golden age of science and discovery, would be impossible for NASA to even dream of achieving without the Genesis mission. So just really grateful for the participation.
Well, thank you very much to all of our panelists. Maybe to follow up on Administrator Isaacman's point, to the other panelists here, there were specific challenges. Up to now 33 challenges. That's an expanded set from the initial batch that were announced previously. Both the expansion of those original DOE challenges and also some new ones in there. So we're very excited to see what's to come there. And obviously for already beginning implementation on the initial batch of challenges. Are there any specific kind of topics that other panelists have raised that you're particularly excited about? I think something that is so incredibly exciting about the Genesis mission is the notion that this isn't just one single area of our society or scientific discovery that we're looking to apply AI to. This is across every area from health to education to energy to transportation. And so, maybe folks want to, just to speak a little bit to some of those particularly exciting bits of the larger portfolio.
Sure. One of the great frustrations of the biomedical sciences is that you have these fundamental biological discoveries, about the genome, about the cell, about living systems. But the time it takes from those fundamental discoveries to actually making a difference in the lives of patients is far too long. With AI, we have the capacity, and I'm today setting a goal of having that time, cutting that time in half between fundamental discovery and fundamental transformation of patient care. Some of the things I'm most excited about, we actually have 13 counts. We scaled it down to 6 because we're still going to do this, but just let you know. We're going to advance our knowledge of predicting living systems. So we use AI to model and forecast the behavior of complex biological systems. This will just unlock drug discovery. because you won't have to wait until you get the animal model results in. You'll be able to much more rapidly go through all of the potential sort of interventions in silico, and then to be able to make advances in living systems much faster. Scaling of American industry leadership. A major problem right now we have is that all of those great advances in genetics to applied genetics requires cell manufacturing. We in many ways ceded that leadership to the Chinese. We're going to invest using AI to bring home that kind of cell manufacturing technology. And it'll make an immediate difference in the lives of patients. Early detection of biological threats, that's a tremendously important application of AI that needs a lot of work. I already mentioned pediatric cancer and accelerated drug discovery through clinical translation. And finally, addressing the root causes of chronic disease. All of those are going to be accelerated with AI and these tools that DOE and the rest of our government has unlocked.
Well, let me start by saying we're just tremendously excited about the kind of portfolio of investments that we're going to be making. One of the biggest things that we've been doing for the past couple of years is we've been stewarding something called the National AI Research Resource, or the NARE. We work with DOE on that, a lot of the other federal partners, with tremendous interest from the private community and foundations. We're very pleased that NARE is going to be providing support to some of these several hundred projects that DOE has announced today. That investment is allowing us to kind of bridge the gap and kickstart some of the things that are going to be taking place. So that's the first thing. Today we're going to announce 4 major initiatives that are coming out of NSF Genesis. The first is we're going to be investing $380 million. Actually, it's probably well over 400 by the time we finish. So I'll say well over $400 million worth of programmable cloud labs. We're going to set up 20 test beds across the country to do discovery, to really accelerate the pace of discovery in everything from material science to chemistry. Again, we're laying these foundational investments that are going to let all the scientific disciplines that we support, which is literally everything, use that to massively accelerate the pace of discovery. So the things that, I like the fact that we were leading with the science here this morning in those 4 discussions. All the things that you heard on that are going to be replicated across every other discipline, and that's what we're going to be doing through these programmable cloud labs. The key thing is, we were involved very early on in things like, the internet. And NSF didn't invent the internet, we enabled universities and institutions to connect, and it was that connectivity that really catalyzed things, and that's exactly what we're doing with the Genesis mission right now. That's a point I think really needs to keep that in mind. We're creating the conditions for success that are going to drive us forward for the next 30 plus years. Just like we did before. This is the we're about to hit the gas on this. The interesting thing, we're talking about these PCLs as we're coming down here today. One of the most important things about science is being able to share results. And like the Golden Age of Science document talks about also celebrating negative results. Like what you learn from failure is extremely important. So again, our conversation was, the faster you can fail and the more you can share that with other people, the less other people will have to duplicate your failure in order to succeed. So that's what this kind of connectivity is going to do. It's going to let people share their results, and then you can continue to build on that. And that's going to be a real force multiplier for us. The second investment that we're announcing is $80 million in infrastructure, and Michael talked a little bit about that in his remarks. We are going to be making investments in data infrastructure. So the hardware, the things that we're going to need to leverage the next part of our investment, which is over $100 million in AI data-ready data sets. We have hundreds, you can imagine through all the scientific disciplines, We need to do what we did with the Protein Data Bank, which we invested in for 50 years, by the way. We need to do that across every discipline. So having data sets that you can trust and leverage, and then being able to have the infrastructure that you can unlock, I think is extremely important. Then the last thing we're going to do, which because we're in assembly, we always do a Dear Colleague letter. So the last thing we'll do is a Dear Colleague letter that's really going to encourage our research community to think about Genesis as they propose to all the other programs. So there's what we're doing specifically for Genesis, and then there's that connectivity across all the other fundamental research. We're going to encourage people to use the hardware and the opportunities that we're creating. So I'm really excited about that. I think we're, if you like what happened with the PDB and AlphaFold, just wait. There's going to be a lot more of that.
Actually, crystallography went into the absolute data sets for the record.
It was a team effort.
It was.
What I'll add from the Department of War standpoint is we love this notion of challenges. DARPA's done, which is part of our team in R&D, DARPA's done challenges over time, and it's created this fantastic dynamic of encouraging people to both from a competitive spirit standpoint, but to really sort of set a goal out there that people can drive to that's not amorphous and has more tangibility to it. So we propose 7 challenges here for the Genesis mission, and we're not going to just set the challenges. We're going to bring in people and the data set, the expertise, world-class talent to it to really give it some oomph, along with the budget that we can provide. And I think there's I won't outline all 7, but there's a few we're particularly excited about, and we've had driven through the Office of OSTP from Kratos and from Ethan here. Quantum's been a big initiative overall across government that we talked about a couple of weeks ago in a big center. But for us, the Quantum Discovery, so the Quantum Systems for Discovery Challenge, we're looking for the next foundational breakthrough. Quantum sensors are pretty limited by their fragility right now, so we want to use AI to manage the quantum noise and error correction in real time. If we could crack some of the basic science challenges through Genesis and this challenge, will really accelerate the transformation of quantum sensors and into applied use cases, like completely unjammable positioning, navigation, timing. It's really important in the defense of the war setting, given how crowded the electromagnetic space is, and when you see what happens when nations that didn't have these kinds of capabilities now all have them to be able to block GPS, which is a very important tool for our warfighters. The second one is scaling biology, not quite the way that Jay's talking about it, but for our bioindustrial manufacturing challenge, how we use AI and bioreactors to create digital twins of organisms so we can manufacture our own advanced fuels, chemicals, and materials so we can secure our supply chain. Because we have a lot of weaknesses in our defense industrial base and the broader American supply chain because of our outsourcing and dependency in our adversary supply chains. You see that with critical minerals and lots of some of the other things I mentioned. And domesticating those, instead of trying to replicate the old methods that have been done before, how we have new methods of doing it that are cheaper, cleaner, and give us more control over our supply chains. And those are the 2 I'm really excited about. Thanks for sort of catalyzing this with Genesis, because I think it forces some really good behaviors that are going to give this nation incredible benefit in the decades to come.
I think it's interesting that what you're hearing here is both from the foundational research all the way through the actual manufacturing and development of supply chains here in the United States. It's really a scientific discovery all the way through reindustrialization. Genesis is able to catalyze an entire pipeline. One question for you, Administrator Isaacman. Before we saw some very inspirational videos that harken back to these national missions of old. And I welcome folks to take a look at the FY 2028 research and development priorities in science and golden age that Director Kratos alluded to. There's a lot of discussion there around these ambitious national science and technology missions. The President has either signed out through executive orders. Obviously, NASA has been involved with many of those throughout its history. And I'd say even recent with Artemis II, there's been this incredible excitement that we've just seen from across the globe with some of these ambitious challenges.
You've announced obviously around space nuclear, around the lunar base. I think there's no more exciting topic. Certainly when I'm on social media or retweeting, that's really when folks get jazzed about seeing this excitement. How do you view kind of Genesis as playing a role in terms of some of these larger multi-year, multi-agency missions?
Yeah, no, and again, very, very appreciative for the cooperation, because I can't think of any of the exciting missions that are on the horizon that in some way or another are not going to take advantage of this program. So we, as I described before, they fit generally in two broad challenge categories of, ensuring American space superiority, which in my mind is the technological development to extend American humanity's reach farther into space, of which certainly the moon base is step one, an exciting journey, and the other is just all of the data that we will inevitably gather and have already done so through past missions and making sure we don't miss another galaxy. And I would say this, there's a lot that's going into it. First, I mean, it's hard enough to return astronauts to the surface of the moon. It's been more than a half century since we've been there, let alone establish humanity's first outpost on another world, like building a moon base, of which the entire phase one over the next few years is just the science of survival, as we call it, because we don't know what will or won't work. So we're going to send a lot of missions with a lot of sensors to learn an awful lot. I mean, at this point, we don't know if we're going to have to be using some of our rovers just based on moon surface interactions from big landers, because what we're talking about landing today is very different than the Grumman 11 of decades past. Are we going to have to use our rovers to pave landing zones on the lunar surface itself? So generally speaking, everything about the architecture of the lunar base is one of the highest priority initiatives that we've included in the Genesis mission program challenges. Or maybe just talk a little bit about some of the scientific missions itself that are being designed end-to-end with AI now. So Da Vinci is an exciting mission to the extreme atmospheric pressure environment of Venus coming up. And we're taking a little bit of what we've already had an opportunity to learn with incorporating AI into some of our Martian rovers, recognizing the transmission delays make it, not impossible, but not ideal to have a human in the loop at all times. And building that into a mission from the get-go, where AI, it's going to leverage onboard AI capabilities to decide where it needs to go and what information it needs to gather, and what from that it has gathered is most important to the scientific community to send back home before its life should end. And it's an entire end, but certainly I expect will be a model going forward. And then you brought up the world's first nuclear-powered interplanetary spaceship, SR-1 Freedom, that we look to launch in 2028, which we hope is the beginning of the almost analogous nuclear Navy for NASA, which goes right to the heart of American space superiority, being able to reach out beyond the limitations of chemical propulsion, in which case managing a reactor in that environment with 20-plus minute transmission delays is not optimal. So that will certainly be a component of our Genesis mission strategy, and more importantly, maybe even the evolution as we try and optimize mass and get to higher reactor temperatures and shed some of the football field size radiators that are initially required by folks. So lots of exciting things that we would, as I said before, it would be impossible for us to even consider undertaking without this kind of partnership.
Thank you. So, one thing, Brian, that you had mentioned in terms of foundational research, the idea of officially this ECL, I think, a lot of folks in the room, know about, but this notion that Genesis will be kind of integrated into so many core aspects of NSF's mission. So many of these different areas where scientific discoveries can lead to results and the applications that we're hearing here that are being solved under Genesis. There's an open question for the panel here, but where are there kind of opportunities for interagency collaboration as part of Genesis mission, whether in terms of infrastructure, the challenges themselves? So I think that's one thing for folks to note here across these expanded science and tech challenges, is that the vast majority of those there's no single agency that's involved. These really are all collaborative challenges that, since February, when we first had a convening of everyone here, and there's so much excitement around these missions, folks said, hey, we would love to work with you on that topic. So, just for folks on the panel here, where do you see those opportunities to create some of those new connections across the federal R&D agencies? I mean, you're already seeing here, you can the first thing, but I think the amazing thing for me about Project Genesis and OCP's leadership in this has been we've had a chance to convene the science and technology leaders across all the agencies of the government in one place and share ideas, share advances, share goals, and it's been so for instance the
Biogenesis mission of detecting biological threats, right? We work closely with folks across the government in this endeavor, because the knowledge for the data systems we have come from, potentially from other parts of the government. The capacity to do the compute comes from Biogenesis, from Genesis and DOE, from other parts of the government, as well as our own investments. It's this all of government approach, I think, is going to this all of sort of R&D approach across the government, I think, is going to be the pivotal thing that will make a difference in all of these amazing missions.
Yeah, I'd like to collaborate with Jared on everything cool he just said. But seriously, I think one of the things that is one area that we all can definitely agree is important to all of this is the people aspect. We have to work together to create the workforce of the future that is going to be AI enabled, but AI literate. That's a big thing right now. What does it mean? We're going to have to develop the training and the opportunities for people to understand how do you harness this, because we serve a lot of the same communities. The people that work for all of you are the same people that we fund, and that's good. That means that people move across the research and development enterprise, but we really need to lean into the workforce piece and make sure that we're doing everything that we can to make that American workforce is going to power this whole thing. The other opportunities, I think one of the things we're excited about at NSF is DOE in particular, and NASA, and NIH, you all bring these rich laboratory environments that have very specialized expertise. I think, for example, we can, and sorry, but if we want to work on things that have applications for the things that Neil mentioned, like precision navigation and timing, or if there are things that have dual use applications, it's excellent to have that connectivity so that when we get it to a certain point, we can say, great, and now it goes over in there and it supports our national security missions. So anything that we can do to make it easier for people to transition from the private sector to universities to federal labs with that kind of seamless connectivity is going to be very, very important for us in the future. The other thing, and again, I'll just put it, because all of us, I'm sure, read the R&D priorities memo at 10:30 last night. But the biggest thing is we have to create those opportunities for the early career workforce. The priorities memo, the Golden Age of Science, talks about investing in individuals and having them have these kind of portable experience that they can bring across the enterprise. And I think it's going to be, it's our job to figure out how to do that, either through fellowships or opportunities to support people, so that if you start out as an NSF researcher and you end up working in the Department of War, we all get a piece of that.
Maybe give a little historical opinion, and then give you some ideas on cross-agency collaboration. We think about the 20th century, it was more chronological, and that we had our military strength, and there was some overlap here, which led to our economic strength, which led to our technological strength in the late 20th century, where we really just zoomed out in all dimensions on technology across other countries over the world. The 21st century is really technological dominance of strength is going to drive our military strength and drive our economic prosperity. And in an AI world where technology is primarily or sort of rooted and catalyzed by these AI technologies, data is sort of the fuel for that AI technology, and that's federated across the whole world, but certainly across the government within our own departments. So breaking down those data silos, which is something that is trite at this point, I would say, but it's a real opportunity with Genesis to combine the data sets we have across as many domains as we can, and that'll feed AI, which will make our technological discovery process incredible. We're the only country in the world that really has quite this sophisticated, diverse data sets that we've been across our agencies, that we can combine those. I think that's there's examples of where that can happen. In the near term, early detection of biological threats. There's no agency that has that mission right now. But if you have the Genesis platform, we can take data from HHS, from USDA, Department of War, Department of Energy. You can really sort of create a system where we're detecting anomalous biological signatures at speed and scale, which is also important because adversaries can use these models to create novel bio threats or novel chemical threats. So these are examples of just how history is changing and how we have to think is changing.
Maybe with respect to just cross-agency collaboration that leverages the Genesis mission, where that would be, I would say, examples are most applicable for some of the things we're pursuing with NASA. And this again with every one of my colleagues on the stage and those that are here. I mean, soon in the very near future, the limitation for human spaceflight won't be the technology for getting where we want to go, physiological and psychological limitations, of which certainly, while artificial gravity has been featured in science fiction, which is not broken, the physics could be there. I would also take a pharmacological potential solution to some of the just degradation that happens in the unique environment of microgravity, or for example with NSF, we already described it's a combination of NASA assets and the Vera Rubin Observatory in Chile that combined, along with, I would say, some substantial AI analysis down to the pixel level, will ensure that we don't go the way of the dinosaurs, which my understanding of planetary protection holds very well. Not to mention whether, as I mentioned, the first nuclear-powered interplanetary spaceship, which should be the first of many as we inevitably pivot to what I hope to be nuclear NASA, requires extensive collaboration with the Department of Energy, and for sure, as we inevitably at NASA move out across the last great frontier into the ultimate high ground of space, we would not be able to do so without our colleagues at the Department of War, which when you think about whether it's communication, observation, many things that are critically enabling to NASA's mission, certainly space domain awareness, even specks of change at orbital velocities are very damaging to our mission. That collaboration with DOJ is so not just the AI technology itself and how we're economically contributing to it, but the unique expertise from all of those agencies comes together in this whole government effort. It's extremely enabling.
Amazing. So I know we started just a few minutes late. Just want to get off one last quick fire question to everyone on the panel, maybe starting with you, Administrator Isaac, we've been working our way down. For so many of the folks in the room here, whether you're funded by government, from the industry and academia, from philanthropy, or you're looking to co-fund challenges, what is it, just in a few very quick words, what should folks, outside of government be most looking forward to or excited about, your agency's participation, Genesis, and how that kind of relationship in public-private partnerships can look moving forward?
Sure. So I think actually a great example of it is a philanthropic effort. Eric Schmidt, for example, has made a very sizable contribution to planetary sciences, undertaking multiple projects right now between telescopes and actually a Mars mission that's on the horizon, potentially even in the 2020 window. It's an example where NASA can provide some of the subject matter expertise to help with this is actually an example of NASA being what I consider a force multiplier for science, but that's just the start. So we can help them get the hardware and get it into the environment to conduct its science. But now the data, again, all the data that it's going to collect, which will be well in excess of what any human can be able to analyze reasonably, be able to tap into the same platform that we're going to use to analyze Nancy Grace Roman, for example, or any of the other great exploration assets. So good example for a public-private partnership that's helping us pursue the sequencing work.
I would say that, besides the Genesis Mission Consortium itself, we've consolidated our innovation ecosystem at the Department of War. So we have the Defense Innovation Unit, we have our Chief Digital and AI Office, we have our Biotech Office, and all of these now are in a place that we've tried to make user-friendly, and instead of going through a normal contracting process, we've created these commercial solution openings. A normal contract that a normal organization or a normal person can actually get through with speed. And so those are the places to find opportunities at the Department of War that are linked into the Genesis mission. we're out there promoting them, talking about them, and making sure our leaders are out at places you all are at, so that we can talk about the next challenge. We're going to be announcing all these challenges, saying, hey, we're open for business, and here's the things we're looking at doing to keep an eye out for those things.
Yeah, we can't do it without partnership. I mentioned the National AI Research Resource. That is 34, 39 corporate industry sponsors, philanthropies. We need industry and philanthropies to work with us to do this, all of us do. The programmable cloud labs I mentioned, that's going to be that's going to be synergized by a contribution from the STAR Institute. So all of these activities that we're going to do are going to require partnerships. The piece where I think we're going to get the most leverage is as we start to do this, you'll get state and local authorities that will be excited about things that are happening in the states, and they will start to kind of pile in resources. I think we'll see some of you know we have a regional innovation and energy use program at NSF. We just announced 12 of those last week. 2 of them around critical minerals and a host of other topics, many of which are probably going to start connecting with Genesis mission activities. We put in $150 million and unlocked almost $2 billion worth of additional resources. So that's the kind of thing that we're all going to need to do to be able to meet the needs of the broader community through the Genesis mission. I think it's completely possible, and it's just a matter of building that momentum. The other piece is we don't want to be sustaining these things from the federal dollar forever. So we want to get them lit, we want to get them performing, and then we want to move on and start working on the next challenge.
At the NIH, we have 27 different institute centers. Every single institute center is all in on the Genesis Challenge. So what you're going to start to see is highlighted topics where people are going to be encouraged to apply for items related to Project Genesis. You're going to have opportunities for, especially for early career researchers in the audience and for small businesses. There are going to be opportunities to participate in research efforts. All of the NIH is going to be part of the mission. We're going to be very public about these opportunities as they come out and come forward. We don't just want this to sit in the traditional 5 universities wherever they normally sit and go slow. We don't go fast on each and one of these. And that's going to involve bringing in new researchers, private industry, all to participate in this amazing research mission.
Amazing. Well, thank you all for your partnership. We're excited to have you as a part of the Genesis mission. We look forward to collaborating with you all and the Department of Energy on this expanded set of estimates and challenges as we work to usher in a new era of AI-enabled scientific discovery. So thank you all very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now taking a brief break. Please plan to rejoin us in the ballroom promptly at 11:15.